package arrived on a Thursday night during a thunderstorm. I remembered the exact moment because the power in my apartment had flickered twice just before someone knocked on my door. It was almost midnight. Nobody ever visited me that late. When I opened the door, the hallway was empty. No footsteps, no elevator sound, nothing. But sitting on the floor was a small cardboard box covered in dust, like it had been hidden somewhere for years. There was no shipping label, no address, no return name. Just one line written across the top with thick black marker. Don't watch this tape. I stood there staring at it, longer than I should have. Something about the handwriting felt strange, uneven, nervous. Like whoever wrote it was shaking badly. I should have thrown it away. Instead, I carried it inside. The box was heavier than it looked. I placed it on my kitchen table and just watched it for a while. The storm outside kept getting worse. Rain hit the windows hard enough to sound like fingers tapping on glass. Part of me wanted to ignore it completely, but curiosity is dangerous. After a few minutes, I finally opened the box. Inside was an old VHS tape wrapped in clear plastic. No title, no markings. The tape itself looked worn out, like it had been played hundreds of times already. That's when I noticed something else. There was a tiny piece of folded paper taped to the bottom. I opened it slowly. It only had 3 words written on it. He saw you. That my chest tightened immediately. I don't know why, but the entire apartment suddenly felt different. Too quiet, too still. Then I heard a soft sound behind me. The television in my living room had turned on by itself. I don't even remember putting the tape into the VHS player. 1 second, I was staring at the television, trying to convince myself this was some stupid prank. And the next second, the tape was already inside. The machine made that old clicking sound, and the screen turned black. Then static filled the room, loud, sharp, annoying. I almost ejected the tape right there. But suddenly, the static disappeared, and a video started playing. At first, it looked harmless. Just a dark road at night. The camera moved slowly forward, like someone was walking while holding it. The quality was terrible. Everything looked gray and distorted. Trees lined both sides of the road, and the only sound was heavy breathing behind the camera. I kept waiting for something to jump out. Nothing did. Then the camera stopped moving, and I realized why the road looked familiar. It was my street. My stomach tightened immediately. The video continued forward, slowly approaching my apartment building. Every detail was correct. The broken streetlight near the corner, the graffiti on the mailbox, even my neighbor's old bicycle chained near the entrance. Whoever recorded this had been outside my apartment, watching me. I grabbed the remote and paused the tape. The screen froze on the front door of my building. That should have been enough for me to stop watching. I couldn't. Something about it felt impossible. Like my brain refused to accept what I was seeing. So I pressed play again. The camera entered the building. I felt cold instantly. The person filming walked up the stairs very slowly, almost dragging their feet. Floor by floor, step by step. Then the camera reached my hallway. I stopped breathing. Apartment 104. My apartment. The camera stood directly outside my door for almost a full minute without moving. Like whoever filmed it was listening, waiting. Then, very slowly, the doorknob on the screen began to turn. I paused the tape the second the doorknob moved. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the remote. I kept staring at the frozen screen, trying to calm myself down, trying to think logically. Someone had to be messing with me. Maybe an old recording, maybe edited footage. That's what I told myself. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I got up and checked the front door again. Locked. Every window? Locked too. The apartment was silent, except for the low static sound still coming from the TV speakers. I remember feeling this strange pressure in my chest, like the room itself was getting smaller. I should have turned the tape off. Instead, I pressed play again. The camera slowly pushed the door open. My door. The exact same creaking sound echoed from the television speakers, and I swear I heard that same sound quietly behind me at the same time. I spun around fast. Nothing. The hallway outside my bedroom was empty. When I looked back at the screen, the camera was inside my apartment now, moving carefully through the darkness, past the kitchen, past the living room. Then I noticed something strange in the background. Someone was standing near the hallway. At first, I thought it was just a shadow, but the figure didn't move. Tall, thin, completely still. I leaned closer to the TV without even realizing it. The quality was terrible, but the shape looked human, almost too tall to fit inside the apartment properly. Then the camera moved again, and the figure disappeared. I felt a chill run through my entire body. The footage entered my bedroom. Everything was exactly where it should be. My desk, my chair, my jacket hanging beside the closet. But one thing was different. On the bed, someone was sleeping. Me. I stopped breathing completely. The camera slowly moved closer to my sleeping body, while that heavy breathing sound grew louder through the speakers. Then the person behind the camera whispered something, very softly. "He knows you're watching." I turned the TV off immediately. The screen went black, but my reflection stayed there for a second longer than it should have. I know how crazy that sounds, but I saw it. My reflection was still staring forward even after I stepped back. I unplugged the television from the wall and stood there breathing right, trying to process what I had just watched. My entire body felt cold, not normal cold. The kind that sinks into your chest and stays there. I barely slept that night. Every little sound in the apartment kept waking me up. Pipes moving, floorboards creaking somewhere above me. At one point, I even heard what sounded like slow footsteps outside my bedroom door. But every time I checked, nobody was there. The next morning, I almost convinced myself it had all been stress, lack of sleep. Maybe someone made a creepy tape as a joke. Then my phone rang. It was my friend Daniel. The second I answered, I noticed something strange about his voice. He sounded distracted, nervous, like he hadn't slept either. Before I could say anything, he asked me one question. "Did you watch the tape?" My stomach dropped instantly. I never told him about the package. I asked him how he knew about it, but he ignored the question completely. There was heavy breathing on his side of the phone, almost like he was walking fast. Then he whispered, "You weren't supposed to keep watching." The call cut off. I tried calling him back 3 times. No answer. Later that evening, Daniel finally texted me an address across town. No explanation, just one message. "Come alone." I drove there right before sunset. The address led to an abandoned video rental store that had been closed for years. The windows were covered in dust, and the old sign outside barely hung onto the building. Daniel was waiting inside. The second I saw his face, I knew something was wrong. He looked terrified, not scared. Terrified. And sitting beside him on the floor was the exact same VHS tape. Daniel wouldn't look me in the eyes. The entire store smelled like dust and mold, and the only light came from a small lamp sitting on the floor beside him. Old VHS tapes were scattered everywhere around the room, like somebody had searched through them in a panic. I asked him what was going on. He didn't answer at first. He just kept staring at the tape beside him. Then he finally said something that made my skin crawl. "It changes every time you watch it." I laughed nervously, because I honestly didn't know how else to react. But Daniel wasn't joking. His hands were shaking badly. Dark circles sat under his eyes like he hadn't slept in days. He told me he got the same package 3 weeks earlier. Same box. Same warning. At first, his tape looked exactly like mine. Footage of his neighborhood, his apartment, someone secretly recording him at night. But after the 3rd time he watched it, things started changing. The camera angles became different. New rooms appeared in the footage. Places he had never shown anyone. Daniel said the tape somehow knew things about him. Private things. He leaned closer to me and lowered his voice. "Last night, the tape showed tomorrow." I felt my stomach tighten immediately. Before I could respond, he pushed an old television toward me. The VHS player underneath it was already connected. "I need you to see this," he whispered. I told him I didn't want to watch anymore, but he pressed play anyway. Static filled the screen again. Then the footage appeared. It showed the inside of the video store we were standing in right now. Same shelves, same broken lights, same table near the back wall. The camera slowly moved through the room. Everything matched perfectly, except for one thing. Daniel wasn't in the video. I looked over at him immediately. His face had gone pale. Then, the camera in the footage turned toward the front east entrance of the store. And standing outside the glass door was me, not recording, just standing there, watching the building from the darkness. I stepped away from the television so fast I almost knocked the lamp over. "That's not me," I said immediately. But even as the words left my mouth, I knew they sounded weak, because it was me. Same jacket, same posture, same face, half hidden in the dark outside the store window. The version of me on the tape wasn't moving, just staring directly at the building like he was waiting for something inside. Daniel muted the TV. The room suddenly felt too quiet. Then he told me the worst part. That footage wasn't there yesterday. I looked back at the screen again, trying to think clearly. None of this made sense anymore. My head hurt. My chest felt tight. It honestly felt like the tape was slowly pulling us deeper into something we didn't understand. I asked Daniel where the tapes came from. He shook his head slowly. "No idea." But everyone who watches them disappears eventually. I thought he was trying to scare me until he showed me the photographs. There were 4 pictures taped to the counter beside the TV. Different people. Different ages. Every photo had the same black VHS tape sitting somewhere nearby. One family standing in a kitchen. A college student smiling in a dorm room. An older man sitting beside an old television, all missing. Daniel said he found the photos hidden inside videotape cases around the store after receiving his package. At first, he thought it was coincidence too, until he noticed something strange. In every photo, there was always someone standing in the background, watching, sometimes outside a window, sometimes reflected in a mirror, sometimes reflected in a mirror, sometimes barely visible in the dark corner of the room. The same tall figure I saw in my apartment footage. Then, Daniel handed me another photograph. The second I looked at it, my blood went cold. It was a picture of me. Not from social media, not from work. This photo had been taken through my bedroom window at night while I was asleep. And standing beside my bed in the picture was that tall figure. Its face was blurry, but its hand was resting gently on my shoulder. I couldn't stop staring at the photograph. My brain refused to process what I was seeing. I kept trying to convince myself it was fake, edited somehow. But every detail in the picture was real. My room, my blanket, the clock beside my bed showing 3:14 a.m., and that thing standing next to me. Daniel suddenly grabbed my arm hard enough to hurt. "Listen to me," he said. "We have to destroy the tape before it finishes." Before I could ask what he meant, the television behind us turned on by itself. Static exploded through the speakers. Both of us jumped. The VHS player was empty. I know it was empty, because Daniel had taken the tape out only minutes earlier. It was still sitting on the counter beside the photographs. But somehow, the TV was playing footage again. New footage. The camera moved through the inside of the store in real time. Not old recording, not delayed. Real time. I watched the screen carefully and realized something horrifying. The camera angle was impossible. It was filming from somewhere high in the corner of the ceiling, watching us. Daniel backed away slowly. I could hear panic in his breathing now. Then the camera on the screen tilted downward toward us, toward me specifically. And a voice came through the television speakers. Soft, distorted, almost whispering. "You watched the tape." Lights inside the store flickered hard. For 1 second, everything went completely dark. Then the lights came back. Daniel was gone. Daniel was gone. I spun around instantly, shouting his name. But the store was empty now. No footsteps, no open door, nothing, just silence. Then I noticed the television screen had changed again. Now, it was showing my apartment. The camera slowly moved through my living room, past the kitchen, toward the hallway leading to my bedroom. I felt sick because I knew my apartment was empty. I was standing inside the video store, but the footage kept moving deeper into the apartment anyway. Then the camera stopped in front of my bedroom mirror, and in the reflection, I saw myself standing there, watching the camera, smiling slowly while holding a VHS tape in my hand.